High Commander Xylith of the Arxian Empire stood motionless on the bridge of the stellar dominance, her iridescent scales reflecting the soft glow of holographic displays. The primitive solar system before her would be conquest number 3042, barely worth noting in the Empire's vast records of subjugation. Earth, as the natives called it, was just another stepping stone in the Empire's relentless expansion. Status report, she commanded, her auxiliary arms adjusting the ceremonial cape that denoted her rank. Preliminary scans complete, High Commander, her science officer replied. Detecting widespread electromagnetic emissions, primitive orbital structures, and nuclear fission technology. Standard Class 3 developing civilization. Xylith's mandibles clicked in satisfaction. Class 3 civilizations were her favorite, advanced enough to understand their insignificance in the face of Arxian might, but not developed enough to pose any meaningful resistance. The Empire's approach was time-tested. Demonstrate overwhelming technological superiority, demand submission, and integrate the new species into their carefully stratified hierarchy. Deploy the Herald, she ordered. The sleek diplomatic vessel detached from the stellar dominance, its hull decorated with symbols of Arxian achievement. These displays of grandeur had broken the will of countless civilizations before first contact even began. As the Herald approached Earth's orbit, Xylith noticed something odd. The primitive orbital structures were arranged in an unusual pattern, almost like High Commander. Her tactical officer's voice cracked with alarm. Multiple energy signatures appearing. There, everywhere. The seemingly primitive satellites transformed, metamorphosing into weapon platforms that shouldn't have been possible for a Class 3 civilization. Before Xylith could process this impossibility, a transmission cut through their secured channels with perfect clarity. Arxian vessel Stellar Dominance. A calm human voice addressed them by name. This is Earth Defense Command. We've been expecting you. Xylith's secondary heart stopped. No primitive species should know their language, let alone their ship's designation. Impossible, she whispered. Scan for translation matrices. None detected, High Commander, her communications officer reported. They're broadcasting in pure Imperial Standard. The human voice continued. For the past 70 years, we've been intercepting your transmissions, studying your protocols, and preparing for this moment. Your Empire's habit of broadcasting invasion plans in the clear gave us ample time to prepare. Xylith's mind raced. 70 years. The Empire had been nowhere near this sector then. These humans had somehow intercepted and decoded transmissions from thousands of light years away. Your Herald is currently targeted by 37 weapon systems, the human explained casually. Each one combines your own technology, which we've improved upon, with innovations you've never seen. Would you like a demonstration? Preposterous, Xylith snarled. No species cold. A brief flash of light interrupted her. Where the Herald had been, only expanding debris remained. The impossible had happened. A Class 3 civilization had just destroyed an Imperial vessel. That was a courtesy shot, the human voice returned. The actual weapons are still hidden. You see, Commander Xylith, humanity doesn't believe in showing all our cards at once. We're rather fond of surprises. The tactical display erupted with new signatures as previously invisible stations shimmered into view. Earth's orbit was a war zone waiting to happen, bristling with weapons that combined Imperial technology with configurations Xylith had never seen before. Impossible, she repeated, but with less conviction. Our stealth systems cannot be detected, let alone replicated. Cannot. The human's tone carried something Xylith had never heard in a first contact scenario. Amusement. Your Empire's greatest weakness is your certainty about what is and isn't possible. While you were busy maintaining your technological stasis, humanity has been innovating, adapting, and overcoming. We don't accept limitations. We challenge them. Xylith watched in horror as her tactical display revealed more human installations, each one demonstrating impossible combinations of technologies. They hadn't just copied Imperial tech. They'd improved it, twisted it into new forms that defied imperial doctrine. "This is your only warning," the human concluded. "Return to your empire. Tell them what you found here. Tell them that Earth is not a prize to be claimed, or a civilization to be subjugated. We are humanity. We learn, we adapt, and we overcome. And we've had 70 years to prepare for this moment." As Stylith ordered an emergency withdrawal, she realized with dawning horror that everything she knew about first contact protocols had just been rendered obsolete. In all their millennia of expansion, the Empire had never encountered a species that had turned their own overconfidence against them so effectively. The stellar dominance retreated into hyperspace, but Stylith knew this was only the beginning. She had to report this to the Imperial Council, but how could she explain that a supposedly primitive species had not only anticipated their arrival, but had spent decades preparing for it? How could she make them understand that humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their technology, but their fundamental drive to challenge and overcome the impossible? As her ship fled the Sol system, Stylith realized that the Empire hadn't discovered a new civilization to conquer. They had awakened something far more dangerous, a species that didn't play by their rules, that turned weaknesses into strengths, and that had been waiting patiently in the shadows to prove just how wrong the Empire's assumptions had been. The real war hadn't even begun, and Stylith already knew nothing would ever be the same. 3 standard cycles after the Sol system debacle, strategic analyst Merrick stood before the Imperial War Council, her scales dulled with exhaustion. The chamber's crystalline walls reflected the faces of 12 of the most powerful Arxians in existence, all waiting for her to explain how a primitive species had humiliated their fleet. "Counselors," she began, her voice steady despite her racing hearts, "our fundamental misunderstanding of humanity stems from one crucial error. We assumed technological advancement follows a linear path. Humans don't think like us. They don't wait to perfect one technology before moving to the next. They experiment, combine, and improvise." The holographic display activated, showing footage from their latest devastating encounter with Earth's forces. A swarm of small, agile ships danced through the Imperial formation, their movements unpredictable yet precisely coordinated. "These combat patterns initially seemed chaotic to us," Merrick continued. "But after analyzing thousands of hours of footage, we discovered something extraordinary. Humans have developed their military doctrine through something they call distributed simulation training." She gestured, and the display shifted to show intercepted transmissions from Earth. "They have a global network where billions of their civilians regularly engage in combat simulations, not as formal training, but as entertainment. They call them games." Murmurs of confusion rippled through the council. Grand Counselor Vextrix leaned forward, her ceremonial armor glinting. "Explain how entertainment relates to their military capability." "These games allow humans to experiment with warfare without consequences," Merrick explained. "While we perfect our established strategies through rigid doctrine, they have billions of minds constantly innovating new tactics. Their actual military forces draw from this vast pool of battle-tested strategies that we never imagined, because we never thought to try them." The display showed a recent battle where a human fleet had split into seemingly vulnerable smaller units, baiting Imperial forces into a devastating trap. This tactic came from a popular game called Stellar Confrontation. The human commander adapted it from a winning strategy used in a civilian competition. "Preposterous," growled War Minister Casful. "No serious military would base its doctrine on entertainment." "That's exactly why they're beating us," Merrick countered. "We're serious. They're creative. Every defeat we suffer becomes data for their simulations. Every tactic we use is analyzed by billions of civilian players who devise counters for fun. They've gamified warfare itself." She switched to footage of their latest military disaster. "These ships here. Their neural networks were trained on decades of civilian gaming data. They don't just follow programming. They improvise like the best human players. And they're actual pilots. Many were recruited directly from their gaming communities. The council chamber fell silent as implications sank in. They weren't just fighting Earth's military. They were fighting the concentrated strategic expertise of an entire civilization that had turned warfare into an art form. "There's more," Merrick's continued grimly. "Remember those impossible technology combinations they use? Humans don't compartmentalize knowledge like we do. Their civilian entertainment simulations don't just test strategies. They encourage players to imagine new ways to combine technologies. Many of their military innovations began as theoretical discussions in gaming communities." "There's more," Merrick's continued grimly. "Remember those impossible technology combinations they use? Humans don't compartmentalize knowledge like we do. Their civilian entertainment simulations don't just test strategies. They encourage players to imagine new ways to combine technologies. Many of their military innovations began as theoretical discussions in gaming communities." She pulled up intercepted human communications. "Look at this. They have entire virtual communities dedicated to analyzing our technology and imagining ways to counter it. While our scientists followed strict research protocols, civilian humans treated our most advanced systems as puzzles to be solved. They crowdsourced innovation itself." "How do we fight an enemy that turns warfare into entertainment?" demanded Vextrix. "How do we counter strategies developed by billions of minds working in parallel?" "We can't," Merrick stated flatly. "Not as we are. Our strength was our discipline, our adherence to proven doctrine. But humans view our predictability as a weakness to exploit. Every time we follow our military doctrine, we play into their hands because they've already gamed out every possible response in their simulations." The display showed their latest intelligence. Massive orbital platforms around Earth, constructed with borrowed Arxian technology, but configured in ways that defied Imperial engineering principles. "They're not just copying our technology anymore. They are reimagining it. Their civilian engineers treat our most advanced systems like modular toys to be taken apart and recombined." "Then what do you suggest?" Vextrix asked, her voice heavy with the weight of impending defeat. "We must fundamentally change how we think about warfare, about technology, about everything," Merrick replied. "But I fear it may be too late, because while we're struggling to adapt, they're already simulating their next 1,000 victories. They've turned our conflict into the greatest game they've ever played, and they're winning." The council chamber descended into troubled silence. Outside, the capital's 3 suns were setting, casting long shadows that seemed to portend the Empire's darkening future. The Arxians had spent millennia building the galaxy's greatest military force, only to find themselves outmaneuvered by a species that had turned warfare into a form of play. And somewhere on Earth, billions of humans were logging into their combat simulations, eager to test new strategies against the Empire's best defenses, treating the fate of galaxies as the ultimate game to be won. Admiral Sarah Chen stood before the holographic display in Earth's Combined Defense Command, watching as Operation Mindstorm unfolded across Arxian space. The massive quantum computer arrays beneath the facility hummed with activity as they coordinated what might be the most ambitious cyber warfare campaign in human history. "Status report," she commanded, her eyes fixed on the spreading web of infiltration, points glowing across the galactic map. "Phase 1 complete, Admiral," her chief of cyber operations reported. "Our social engineering vectors are performing beyond expectations. The Arxians never conceived that their greatest vulnerability would be their own cultural assumptions." The display showed thousands of points of light, each representing a successful penetration of Arxian networks. But these weren't traditional cyber attacks. They were something uniquely human. "Show me the Chaos Garden Protocol," Chen ordered. A new overlay appeared, showing the spread of what appeared to be a simple entertainment platform through Arxian communication networks. 6 months ago, humans had begun seeding their networks with what seemed to be harmless civilian software, games, social networks, and entertainment platforms that appealed to the younger, more progressive elements of Arxian society. "The beauty of it," explained Dr. Marcus Wong, the operations chief architect, is that they're doing exactly what we predicted. The older Arxians are dismissing these platforms as meaningless diversions, while the younger ones are embracing them as a form of rebellion against their rigid social structures. Chen nodded. Humanity had spent decades studying Arxian psychology, and they'd identified their greatest weakness, their inability to conceive of entertainment as a serious threat. The Empire's strict hierarchical society had no framework for understanding how something frivolous could be dangerous. "Show me Protocol Wonderland," she requested. The display shifted to show the second phase of their attack. As young Arxians embraced Earth's entertainment platforms, they began encountering what seemed to be randomly generated puzzles and challenges. But these weren't random at all. They were carefully crafted problems that, when solved, gave humans access to increasingly sensitive Imperial systems. "They're doing our work for us," Wang said with quiet satisfaction. "Every time they solve one of our entertainment puzzles, they're actually helping us crack their military codes. They think they're playing games. They're actually dismantling their own empire's defenses." The strategy was quintessentially human, turning the act of network infiltration itself into a form of entertainment. While Imperial cybersecurity looked for traditional attack patterns, humans had gamified the entire process of system penetration. "Update from the Metamorphosis Protocol," announced Lieutenant Rivera from her station. "The social contagion is spreading faster than projected. We're seeing widespread adoption of human-style problem-solving approaches among Arxian youth." This was the true masterstroke of Operation Mindstorm. Beyond mere system infiltration, humans were introducing concepts that were alien to Arxian society: collaborative problem-solving, creative thinking, the questioning of established patterns. Each seemingly innocent game or social platform was designed to subtly alter how young Arxians thought. "They're beginning to experiment with their own technology," Rivera continued, her voice containing a note of triumph. "Just as we predicted, exposure to our entertainment is encouraging them to think outside their doctrinal constraints." Chen watched as the display showed unauthorized modifications appearing in Arxian systems across their empire. Young Arxians, inspired by human-designed games, were beginning to question why things had to be done the traditional way. The rigid imperial hierarchy was facing something it had never encountered: internal cultural evolution. "Alert," the AI assistant announced, detecting increased activity in the Imperial security network. "They appear to be beginning to realize something is wrong." "Too late," Chen said quietly. "Show me the emergence pattern." The holographic display transformed, revealing the full scope of what humanity had achieved. Thousands of seemingly disconnected entertainment systems were linking together, forming a vast shadow network within the Imperial data infrastructure. Each puzzle solved, each game played, each social interaction had added another strand to an invisible web that now permeated every level of Arxian society. "Send the activation signal," Chen ordered. Across Arxian space, the innocent entertainment platforms revealed their true nature. Military communication systems began broadcasting human music. Imperial databases started sharing Earth cultural content. Defense networks began playing elaborate games with their own security protocols. "Message from the Imperial capital," Rivera reported, struggling to keep a straight face. They're demanding to know why their central military command center is playing something called "Never Gonna Give You Up" on all frequencies. A small smile crossed Chen's face. "Send our official response." Throughout Arxian space, on every Imperial channel, display, and network, a simple message appeared: "Thank you for participating in humanity's beta test of our cultural exchange program. Your empire has helped us demonstrate that the most powerful force in the universe isn't technology, it's ideas. Game over." In the following hours, as the Arxian Empire's leadership struggled to understand how their supposedly impregnable networks had been so thoroughly compromised, they failed to grasp the deeper truth. Humanity hadn't just defeated their security systems. They had introduced a virus far more potent than any malware: the virus of human creativity, spread through the simple act of play. And as young Arctians continued to engage with human ideas, absorbing concepts of innovation, individual expression, and creative problem-solving, the Empire faced a threat far greater than any military defeat: the transformation of their own society through the power of human culture. The real victory of Operation Mindstorm wasn't in the systems it had compromised, but in the minds it had changed. The Empire would never be the same. And that was exactly what humanity had planned all along. In the depths of Earth's Quantum Development Facility, Dr. Elena Rodriguez watched as her team prepared to test their latest adaptation of Arxian technology. The massive chamber hummed with energy as the hybrid drive system powered up, a perfect fusion of human ingenuity and reverse-engineered alien tech. Initial quantum field stabilizing at 147% of Arxian baseline, reported her chief engineer, Dr. James Chen. They said this configuration was impossible. Apparently impossible is humanity's specialty. Elena smiled. The Arxians had used quantum technology for centuries, but always within rigid, predetermined parameters. Humans had taken one look at those limitations and asked, why not push further? Begin Phase 2 integration, she ordered. The hybrid drive wasn't just an improved version of Arxian tech, it was something entirely new. Where the Arxians saw quantum fields as delicate structures requiring careful manipulation, humans had discovered they could be woven together like fabric, creating patterns that defied imperial physics. Across the solar system, similar breakthroughs were happening hourly. Humanity had turned reverse engineering into an art form, their decentralized research networks attacking problems from countless angles simultaneously. Incoming priority transmission from Fleet Command, announced the facility's eye. The holographic display shifted to show Admiral Marcus Torres, his expression urgent. Dr. Rodriguez, the Arxians have deployed their Worldbreaker fleet, 17 planet killer vessels, headed straight for Sol. They're desperate enough to use weapons they haven't touched in millennia. Elena's team exchanged glances. The Worldbreakers were legendary, massive ships capable of triggering stellar collapse. The Arxians considered them too dangerous to use, except in the most extreme circumstances. Perfect timing, Elena replied, surprising the Admiral. We've been waiting for them to bring out their best technology. You can't reverse engineer what you can't see. Understanding dawned on Torres's face. You wanted this. Humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology, Admiral. It's our ability to learn and adapt. Every weapon they throw at us becomes a gift, raw material for our next innovation. The display split to show multiple research facilities across Earth and her colonies. Each had specialized in different aspects of Arxian technology, creating a vast web of interconnected innovation. When one team made a breakthrough, the others immediately began exploring how to combine it with their own discoveries. Show them what we've prepared, Elena commanded. Across the solar system, humanity's defense platforms activated. But they weren't preparing to fight the Worldbreakers. They were preparing to catch them. The Arxians think of quantum fields as tools, Elena explained to the Admiral. We've learned to think of them as clay. Their Worldbreakers use quantum manipulation to collapse stars. We've figured out how to reshape quantum space itself. The first Worldbreaker emerged from hyperspace at the edge of the solar system, its massive form bristling with weapons that could crack planets. It fired its main weapon at Jupiter's moon Europa, expecting to shatter it as a demonstration of power. Instead, the quantum beam curved impossibly, caught in a web of distorted spacetime that humans had woven between their defense platforms. The Worldbreaker's energy weapon, designed to destroy worlds, was redirected and reformed, feeding into humanity's quantum network. Thank you for the power donation, Elena transmitted to the Arxian vessel. Your weapon's quantum signature has taught us so much already. Would you like to see what we've done with your previous impossible technologies? The defense platforms shifted, each one incorporating the energy they'd just absorbed from the Worldbreaker. Where the Arxians used quantum fields to destroy, humans had learned to use them to create. The platforms began generating new quantum structures, reshaping space in ways the Empire had never imagined. Impossible, the Arxian commander transmitted. You cannot manipulate quantum fields this way. The calculations alone would require. Require what? Elena interrupted. Rigid adherence to established formulas. We let our AIs experiment with quantum mathematics as a game. They found solutions your empire never imagined because you never let yourselves imagine them. The remaining world breakers emerged from hyperspace, only to find themselves in an environment that no longer behaved according to their understanding of physics. Human quantum manipulators had turned space itself into a weapon. We've learned so much from your empire, Elena continued, her voice carrying genuine gratitude. You showed us what was possible. We simply refuse to accept your limitations on those possibilities. The world breakers' weapons fired again, but in the quantum maze humanity had created, their apocalyptic beams were caught, redirected, and repurposed. Each shot intended to destroy Earth instead provided more energy for human quantum engineers to experiment with. Your empire's greatest weakness, Elena explained to the increasingly desperate Arxian commanders, is that you stopped learning. You found technologies that worked and stuck with them. Humans never stop asking, what if? Every piece of technology, every weapon, every tactic you use against us becomes part of our own evolution. The World Breaker Fleet, pride of the Imperial Navy, hung powerless in space, their weapons turned into tools for human advancement. They had come to demonstrate the Empire's superior power, but had instead become unwitting participants in humanity's greatest experiment. We don't want to destroy you, Elena transmitted finally. We want to learn from you. Every vessel in your fleet contains technologies we haven't seen yet. Think of how much more we could learn together, as allies rather than enemies. As the Arxian commanders contemplated their position, trapped in space that no longer obeyed their rules, they faced a terrifying reality. They hadn't just encountered a species that could match their technology. They had found one that could take their greatest weapons and turn them into stepping stones for even greater innovations. The age of imperial technological supremacy was over. The era of human adaptation had begun. Supreme Arxian Kexley, ultimate ruler of the Arxian Empire, stood in the grand chamber of contemplation, watching the holograms that showed the unthinkable, imperial worlds voluntarily opening diplomatic channels with Earth. After the World Breaker fleet's failure, everything had changed. The Empire wasn't just facing military defeat, it was facing ideological dissolution. The humans have sent their terms, announced High Counselor Vextrix, her once proud bearing now subdued. There, not what we expected. The terms appeared in the air before them, and Kexley felt all four of his hearts skip a beat. The humans weren't demanding territory, resources, or even reparations. Their demands were far more devastating to the imperial way of life. They want us to collaborate. Vextrix continued, her voice uncertain. They're proposing joint research initiatives, cultural exchange programs, open sharing of technological innovations. They want to turn our conflict into a partnership. Partnership. Kexley's scales rippled with disbelief. They've defeated our greatest weapons, compromised our most secure networks, and transformed our society through their infiltration. Now they want to be allies. There's more, Vextrix added. They've already begun. The entertainment platforms they use to infiltrate our networks. They're being transformed into educational systems. Our youth are learning human ways of thinking, human approaches to problem solving. They're calling it collaborative innovation. The display showed scenes from across the Empire that would have been unthinkable months ago. Young Arxians openly experimenting with technology, forming research collectives that ignored traditional hierarchies, sharing ideas across social boundaries that had stood for millennia. We're losing an entire generation, warned General Zixkar, his military bearing cracking with emotion. They're abandoning our ways for human concepts like creative freedom and open-source development. Kexley watched as another hologram showed a human Arxian joint research team. The humans had taken one of their entertainment platforms and turned it into a space where young Arctians could safely experiment with new technological combinations. What had started as a way to infiltrate Imperial systems had become a bridge between their species. "Show me the Enlightenment zones," he commanded. The display shifted to show the regions where human influence had spread the furthest. Entire sectors of the Empire had transformed. Traditional Arxian architecture, once rigidly standardized, now showed impossible combinations of styles. Military installations had been converted into research centers where humans and Arxians worked together, combining imperial precision with human creativity. "They're not just changing our technology," Vextrix observed. "They're changing who we are. The old ways, they're not coming back." A message appeared in the display, a live transmission from Earth's diplomatic corps. "The future doesn't belong to any one species. It belongs to those willing to imagine it differently. Join us in building something new." Kexley felt the weight of millennia of imperial tradition bearing down on him. The Empire had survived countless wars, rebellions, and challenges, but they had never faced anything like humanity, a species that didn't want to destroy them, but to transform them. They'd done something worse than defeat us, he realized. They've made our youth question everything we built. And the most terrifying part, our young ones are happier this way, more fulfilled, more alive. The evidence was undeniable. Sectors that had embraced human influences were experiencing unprecedented advances in technology, art, and quality of life. The rigid efficiency of imperial rule was being replaced by something more chaotic, but also more vibrant. "Show me the progress of the Cultural Integration Protocol," Kexley ordered. The displays filled with data showing the spread of human ideas through imperial society. It wasn't just technology. Human art, music, and literature were spreading like wildfire through Arxian communities. Young Arxians were creating hybrid art forms, combining imperial traditions with human creativity. "We thought we were the pinnacle of civilization," Kexley said quietly. "We thought our way was the only way. But these humans, they've shown us how much more we could be." The Supreme Archon moved to the center of the chamber, his decision made. With a gesture, he opened a channel to every world in the Empire. "My people," he began, "for millennia, we have prided ourselves on our consistency, our adherence to tradition, our unwavering commitment to the ways that made us great. Today, we face a choice. We can cling to those ways and watch our youth abandon them, or we can embrace a new path, one that combines our strengths with new possibilities we never imagined." Across the Empire, billions watched as their supreme leader continued. "The humans have shown us that true strength lies not in unchanging perfection, but in the ability to adapt, to grow, to imagine new ways of being. They defeat us not through superior force, but by showing us versions of ourselves we never knew could exist." In the Enlightenment zones, humans and Arxians together watched the broadcast, their different biologies united in attention. "Therefore, as my final act as Supreme Archon, I hereby dissolve the imperial hierarchy. In its place, we will build something new, a collaborative council where human innovation and Arxian tradition can come together. The age of the Empire is over. The age of partnership begins." As the announcement concluded, celebrations erupted across human and Arxian space alike. The Empire hadn't fallen to military might or political pressure. It had evolved into something new, something neither species could have created alone. In Earth's diplomatic center, Admiral Chen smiled as she watched the reactions spread across the galaxy. "And that," she said quietly, "is how humanity really wins, not by destroying our enemies, but by turning them into friends." The greatest victory, in the end, wasn't the defeat of the Arxian military or the penetration of their networks. It was the moment when an Arxian child first looked at a piece of technology and asked, "What if we tried something new?" The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what humanity had hoped for all along.